Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi, welcome. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. This is David Parra, and we welcome you all to this show. This is show number 3, and today we have a special guest. But before we introduce our guest, Alex, the third show, how do you feel?
Hola, buenos dias. Good morning, David Parra, and good morning, Monica Villalobos from the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and also Joseph Garcia. He's the Director of Communications at the Latino Public Policy Center at the Morrison Institute and ASU, or Center, I'm sorry. So welcome to all of you. And great to be here, David. Beautiful day here in Phoenix, Arizona. Last week we talked about the Foreigners in Our Own Land series of PBS. We talked about the history of Latinos in the United States, and in particular in the Southwest, in California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, etc. Today we're going to focus more on Hispanic by the numbers. But before we go into that, I wanted to just remind everyone that we have our Community Painting Day coming up on Saturday the 27th, 9:45 a.m. to 12. At around 10:15, David, we're going to have a small, brief press conference. But we want to invite everybody to the community painting because local artist David Murrieta will be finishing the mural that we're doing on 7th Street between Portland and Roosevelt. So we invite the community to be there. The address is 1025 North 7th Street. Again, it's between Portland and Roosevelt on 7th Street, 9:45 a.m. Come and have a great time with us. Finish the painting. This is going to be a great mural depicting the history and landscapes of Latinos in Arizona. So we welcome everybody to be part of that.
Yes, please join us for that event. I just want to say hi, Monica. How are you? Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. It's been such an interesting morning for me today, but I'm so happy to be here with all of you and to join you for this very important topic on the numbers, Hispanic numbers in Arizona.
Joseph, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes. You know, I wanted to just repeat that the concept of this platform. This is a social media and radio platform, and the idea is to convene issue experts, particularly from the Latino community, to educate on issues important to this segment of our population. And in addition to education, we also want to highlight. We want to highlight the accomplishments of Latinos, and then, of course, we want to connect. I've been traveling. I made my first trip this year, actually, to Yuma, and I've been speaking to a lot of people, and people are very excited about this effort. So again, this is a platform that we are going to be using to connect, to celebrate, and to educate. And today, before we get into the data, I would like to read just a few concepts that I type for this show, and it is as follows. The name of the show is The State of Arizona Hispanics Numbers. And then I added, there is power in numbers. How does it work? Right? Based on data, Hispanics are growing. If there is power in numbers, how does that work? What do Latinos need to do or are doing to tap into that power? Are we talking about in the area of consumption, voting, occupying positions of power, boards, city councils, legislators, city, county, state positions, etc.? So can numbers translate to power? That would be like an underlying concept. But we want to ask Joseph Garcia, and again, he is with the Morrison Institute Latino Public Policy Center at ASU, to help us understand a little bit about the population, the demographics of Latinos, particularly in Arizona. Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the numbers, you can find them all over the place, but absolutely there's power in numbers, but only if the numbers are active, only if the numbers are engaged, only if the numbers are heard, only if the numbers vote, only if the numbers make themselves known as a power. But if it's a passive number and the number just keeps going up, it doesn't make as big a difference. And you can just look here in Arizona when you're dealing with elected state office. We haven't had a Latino hold statewide office here in Arizona since Raul Castro was the governor 40 years ago.
Wow.
So you're looking at the demographics of Arizona, a large percentage of the electorate are Latino, and yet in statewide offices, not just the governor's office, but talking about state treasurer and secretary of state and attorney general, et cetera, no Latinos. So, 40 years. So what were we talking about? Yes, the numbers have gone up, but without numbers in action and make themselves heard and make themselves known, and especially through vote and otherwise, it doesn't have anywhere near the same effect.
Right. Okay, so Joseph is going to be speaking to us about numbers in general with the community, and then Monica Villalobos is going to address the business side of it. So as we address these two issues, just feel free to join in the conversation, even though it might not be quote-unquote your turn. Just jump in. So, Joseph, numbers. Can you share with us some of the numbers? How many are we here in Arizona in terms of numbers, demographics, et cetera?
Yeah, there's about a little over 2 million Latinos live here in Arizona, and growing. And Arizona's population is about 6.7 million. So it kind of gives you an idea. More interesting number is understanding who we are. We're a very young population. Okay, most of the present company excluded, but sorry, not, except for Monica, I meant the median age for Latinos here in Arizona is 25.
Wow,
very young.
That's very young.
For non-Latino whites in Arizona, the median age is 44. So you can see the big difference right there. We're a very young population coming up. So the potential is great. The potential is there. We are building families. We are building community, but we need to build also political clout and also to have a say in the future of Arizona, because the future of Arizona is largely brown. We live in denial in Arizona in many ways of not recognizing who we are when we look in the mirror.
What does it mean? Go ahead, Monica. Sorry.
I'd say the present is also very brown, right? The present and the future. And for these numbers to really activate, the fact that we're 10 years younger than the rest of the population is significant for a very specific reason. When you think about consumer purchasing, lifestyle changes, milestones, all of those things are happening with Latinos far more often and far sooner. So we're buying houses, we're having children, we're getting married, not always in that order, but more or less, we're really seeing those milestones in the Latino community, which means they're more active in purchasing, they're more active in the workforce, and they're more active in business as well.
Right. So I still would like to get a little bit more deeper into the issue that what does it mean that we are younger? What does that mean?
Well, it means a lot of things. For instance, there are more Latinos in Arizona's K through 12 public school system than there are not Latino white kids.
Wait. Are you saying that the K through 12 Latinos are already a majority?
Absolutely. It's 44%
wow.
of the kids in K through 12. So, we're already there. Arizona is going to become a majority minority state in 2030. Which is much sooner, about 15 years or so sooner than the rest of the nation. So what we're experiencing here in Arizona, the rest of the nation will be experiencing later, but we're kind of the test case. And, I'd say that it's a mixed bag of results on where we are, because when you look at, and we can get into it, but the Latino educational attainment, Latinos are not doing very well. When you look at the number of people living in poverty, Latinos are much overrepresented in that case as well. And the two are linked, of course. Education and poverty are linked, both in attainment and when it comes to wage earning.
This is Alec speaking. Joseph and Monica, I mean, when we talk about education and Latinos in the workforce, 10 years, 15 years down the road, and we have majority of these kids in the school system today, we have some students that are dreamers that may not have a possibility of a college career if things don't go well. What happens then? What is the workforce? How is Arizona going to be able to compete, not only nationally, but globally as well? How do we compete?
Right. In essence, I mean, our K through 12 system is really poisoned right now, unfortunately. And what we're finding from a business standpoint for the future workforce, for entrepreneurs, that is our state. That is the future. 98% of all jobs come from small business. When we look to our succession plan in the state and the economy, these K through 12 students who are currently failing in a system that's ranked 47th in the country in terms of educational achievement, it's a perfect storm. We're setting ourselves up for failure.
Right. Can we elaborate just a bit more, Joseph? I heard you present to the Hispanic Leadership Institute on this issue, and you said that the segment of K through 12 is so critical, not only for Hispanics but for the whole state. Why is that? Why is that segment so critical in terms of economically and other aspects for Arizona?
Well, I think it's important to look at Latinos as an attribute and not as a detriment. And so that's a change of culture and a change of conversation, because too many times, and we've done reports and we've looked at the negative consequences that happen if we do not close the Latino educational gap. And the truth is, even if we close the gap from Latino students to non-Latino white students, all we've done is move them from kind of horrible to mediocre or even bad. So there's much to be done for all of education in Arizona, and I think that's important to understand. It's also important to understand when we're talking about the Latino education gap that it's based on poverty. Poverty is the common denominator. So a poor white kid living next door to a poor Latino kid is going to have the exact same struggles, hurdles, and possibly negative outcomes that the Latino neighbor would have. So it's not an ethnicity thing; it is a poverty thing. And poor kids do not well in schools because of poor school districts. They don't get the quality teachers. Okay. They're economically challenged, which is a big thing. And and the chances are, if your parents go to college, there's like an 85% chance that you're going to go to college.
Right.
You may be dumb as a box of rocks, but you're going to go to college and get a degree. Same holds true as if your parents didn't go to college. There's about an equal chance that you won't go to college, regardless of your potential or your scholastic ability or your
So poverty is more of a factor than being Latino when it comes to education.
Absolutely. It's just that Latinos are a disproportionate number live in poverty. And again, part of that is because of education. Low educational attainment. You get usually lower paid jobs, rely more on manual labor, not so much on skills and degrees. What we say is that basically that we need to start talking in Latino homes about getting a post-secondary education. We're not saying that every Latino kid needs to go get a college degree, because that's not true. But every Latino kid does have to get some training. It could be a certificate. It could be welding. It could be education, where you have a skill. You have a marketable skill. But you can't just think of finishing high school and you're done. And the truth is, far too many Latino kids don't even finish high school because they're not thinking college or beyond. They're thinking, I can make as much now leaving high school as I would make if I had a high school degree. So what's the difference? So the change of culture has to come across from an institutional, including school districts and governments, and also in the home, Latino homes themselves.
I would just add to that, Joe, that I recently had a wonderful opportunity through the city of Phoenix to be principal for a day. And I went into the school system. I figured I was going to be there for 5 hours. I was at the Cesar Chavez Leadership Academy, and I thought, well, surely I could solve all of their problems in 5 hours, right? It's a business problem, and we're going to fix it. And what I found is that we're not just asking children to get an education, right? We're not just asking them to study math and science. Their biggest concern, and I sat down with the kids, was a lot of these kids have deportation plans, which was shocking to me in terms of what's on their mind when they're supposed to be studying. And we're asking them to think about issues like, 2 + 2, when they get home, their parents may not be there, and they've got a checklist of what they're supposed to do. So the problem is much larger. We've got a lot of societal impacts, and the political decisions that are being made in the state impact our children and keep them from that learning. So even if they're predisposed and we teach them, you need to get an education, this is important, look at higher education, they've got far more pressing matters on their mind.
I just want to add real quick, though, on the deportation plan. It's not for the kids themselves, because almost all the young kids, Latino population in Arizona, are legal residents. They were born here or naturalized. So this isn't an, quote, illegal population we're talking about through K through 12. These are American citizens. These are Arizonans. So I just don't want that myth to continue.
Can I get you to hold that thought? We need to go on a quick break. When we get back, we're going to pick that up, because there's some really important points that we need to talk about. That this is 1190 AM, AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Glad you're here joining us, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Good morning and welcome back. This is Alec Suarez, and you are listening to 1190 AM, and our program is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Again, welcome back. And Joseph, before I rudely interrupted you, and we were talking about a really important topic about the role of education within our Hispanic students. But let's pick it up again, just where we left it before the break, Joseph.
Yeah, well, I believe education is a great equalizer, because, I grew up a poor kid, and actually I grew up a poor Latino kid, if you want to really get down to it. But education was opened a whole bunch of doors for me, a whole bunch of new world I wouldn't have had otherwise. And I don't want to get too much into personal information of from my parents, but they didn't go to college. I was the first generation, so forth. There were a lot of obstacles, and I was almost too dumb to know that the odds were stacked against me when I went through college. And but I think I've done okay, and have a master's degree and so forth. It's the one thing that people can't take away from you. You have education, and when you have education, you have a better opportunity for a better job. You can live in a better place, a better neighborhood. You have a better opportunity, greater opportunity to give back to your community, to have an impact on your community and future generations coming after you. If you have an education, you will vote. There's a greater chance that you will vote. Poor people don't vote. Here's the problem. Poor people don't vote. Young people don't vote. Okay? And
there was a third one. I remember your presentation.
Do you remember what the third one was?
I don't. So poor people don't vote.
Right.
Young people don't vote.
Young people don't vote. Right. Okay. So the Latinos fall into both of those. Largely poor, and uneducated. Uneducated people don't vote.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what you just said earlier?
Undereducated is probably a better word than uneducated.
In the concept of students that are undocumented versus those that are not. You mentioned the word myth. I caught it.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I say myth because every time I go out to speak to the general public, it's the one fact I throw out there that surprises everyone. And that is that virtually all of young Latinos here in Arizona they were born here. They are U.S. citizens. They are as American as you and I, largely American audience. And they're always surprised because the myth out there continues to be that, we just have this undocumented Latinos. And anytime anyone looks at the Latinos, whether they be young or old, there's that suspicion somehow that that person is here without documentation. And it's really disrespectful. And it's not only disrespectful, it's wrong. It's outright wrong. So you're allowed to say things today that you weren't allowed to say 5 years ago because there has been this push from the far right, including our own president, who referred to people from Mexico or pretty much Mexican descent as killers, rapists, drug dealers, etc., which has brought this whole outburst of hate crimes increase, of people saying things that just aren't true about people, and it's really pitted Americans against Americans without Americans realizing that. But we can't define people by color, and Latinos are technically, if you were to break it down by race, we are white, and that also surprises and disappoints many of the people I talk to in various groups. Because I say, I feel your pain. I also am white. And they're like, what? What? It's like, but we're broken down ethnicity. But I mean, the point is that we all are Americans, and we need to look at how Americans can benefit. And so that's the whole idea of changing the dialogue, to understand what positive things can happen if we can develop our young workforce coming up, largely Latino. But everybody benefits from this. It isn't just so many slices of pizza, and if you're going to run out, no, all you do is you make more pizzas. That's the great thing about the economies, is there's not a limitation. Pizzas make more pizzas. We don't run out of pizzas. We can always make more. And so we need to change the dialogue of understanding how we all benefit. Now, DROP, the report, which can be found on our website, points out that if we don't do it, because of the large...
Okay, say it a little slower, because we want people to get it. What is DROPed?
Dropped is a report we put out in 2012, which is a follow to 5 Shoes Waiting to Drop, and we're
5 Shoes Waiting to Drop.
Right.
Wow.
And what we're doing is we did shows.
You have the report, Monica?
Yes.
Wow. It's a publication now.
It is a publication.
And we show the economic implications, but really the economic consequences if we do not close the Latino education gap here in Arizona.
And that publication, by the way, it's online. We're going to post it on our website, on our Facebook page, AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We're going to lead you to that link. So please download it. I just did it this morning, actually. And now there's another publication, Joseph. One is the dropped, and the other one?
Well, we've had a few. The other one that I think we can talk about is Arizona's emerging Latino vote.
Okay. Can I stop you just for a second? Monica, you have some numbers for us, right?
Sure.
And I mean, I've gone to your datos by the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. They have an annual, you call it luncheon?
We do have an annual breakfast.
An annual breakfast where you present the new data from. Just talk to us a little bit about datos, and then if you can share with us the numbers when it comes to perhaps poverty, education, whatever numbers you feel that we can address at this time.
Sure, we'll go through some basic numbers. Datos is a publication that's been around for 20 years, and it started more informational and just providing some basic information on demographics, population, purchasing power. Now it's nearly a 400-page book, and that's the one that we have here. You can see it's chock full of data and information. It's a 10-month process we put together with a committee of subject matter experts, and it includes everything from demographics now to consumer behavior to this year we'll have a section on the net value of immigrants in Arizona, and it's really in essence the most comprehensive compilation of secondary research on Hispanic consumers here in Arizona. So at the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we're very proud to be able to provide reliable, relevant, and responsible information. What we've found is that taking the emotion out of the conversation and just going by the numbers and presenting the business case is far more effective than sort of waving our fists in the air and saying, we're here. Now we can just show them this book and say, toma. Yes. Some of the basic facts are there are about 50 to 55 million Latinos in the country now. We are the largest minority population. We've got a purchasing power has reached now $1.5 trillion into the economy. Most interesting is that during the last recession, and people call it different things, but in essence, the downturn, Latinos continued to increase their purchasing power. The trajectory was up. So I always say the recession thing, that didn't happen because of us. We kept spending money. Here in, and that 50 million does not include the 4 million in Puerto Rico, and it does not include the 11 million undocumented, only half of which are Latinos, none of which who voted in the last election, I assure you.
What number was that, Monica?
11.5 million undocumented, only half of which are Latino.
Right.
Here in Arizona, we make up about 2 million of the population. We're 30% of the state, 40% of Phoenix Metro, and almost 50% of K through 12 now. Our purchasing power here locally is about $43 billion. So it's a significant amount going into the economy. I know we'll talk about business later, but those are some of the basic facts. I didn't make them up. I always tell folks I couldn't write better fiction. Latinos are doing very well. They're thriving here despite the political climate.
Wanted to point out that Monica Villalobos has done an amazing job at the chamber. I've been associated with the chamber for many years. I was on the board and also served as chairman of the board for 2 years back in 2005, 2007. But Monica has been instrumental in leading the efforts of Datos. This book is recognized not only in Arizona, but nationally now by many different chambers. The U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has recognized the work that Monica and Gonzalo de la Melena have done this. But I mean, in true essence, I mean, Monica, you've done an amazing job in putting this information together that is extremely valuable. It's not just numbers that you come out of the air, it's facts, the facts that we have as Latinos in numbers here.
Thank you, Alex.
And I really appreciate what you just said, Monica, that we need to take away the emotion, is that how you put it, and just bring the facts, cold, hard facts,
Yes.
And, I still want to come back to this point. If there is power in numbers, are we seeing the power with Latinos? How does it happen? Where does it happen? We already saw that in your sharing, Monica, that in the consuming power, how do you word that?
Purchasing power.
Purchasing power. We have a lot of power.
We do.
We have a lot of purchasing power, but are we seeing that power? Are Latinos enjoying power in other categories? Because I almost feel like, when I go to the supermarket, I study people. I look and, Latinos, they get their carts packed with stuff. And you see non-Latinos, they don't have as much in their cars. So we do buy a lot of stuff. So people love us for that. But when is that power translate to, say, voting? In what areas is power, or can power manifest, other than just the purchasing power?
Well, I'll talk a little bit about voting because, it's just it's so important, and I think we're experiencing what happens when people don't vote. I often say that elections aren't decided by voters; they're decided by non-voters, and I think that happened a little bit in this election. There are about 137.5 million people voted in the 2016 election across the country. The turnout was about 61.5%. For whites, it was even greater than that. It's about 65%. But you get down and you start breaking it down, and you get to Latinos, and the turnout nationally was 47.6% turnout, and we were at the bottom. We did worse than African American, blacks, and Asians, and so forth. So we were at the bottom. And here in Arizona, there's been a great move to get more Latinos registered to vote, and I think that's great. There were about 700,000 Latinos here in Arizona who registered to vote, and about 450,000 cast a ballot. But you can see, but you can see the numbers of people that didn't vote, because we were talking about the number of Latinos here. There's about a little over 2 million Latinos here in Arizona, and largely because we are a younger population. Everyone always asks me. I'm always just deluged with phone calls around election time because everyone wants to know, is this the year that Latinos flex their muscle at the ballot box and
sleeping giant.
Right, sleeping, waking up? And I said, well, yes and no. Yes, you're going to see a larger increase in Latino voters at the ballot box. There's no doubt. There's going to be a wave larger than the last one, I believe. But it's not going to be the tsunami that everyone thinks is going to happen. And they said, why? I said, because 13-year-olds aren't going to be able to vote in the next election. We're still a young population, But the promising fact of that is that because all the young Latinos are U.S. citizens, when they become voter age, they're going to be voter eligible and hopefully registered to vote. And the report that we did on Arizona's emerging Latino vote showed that around 2030, there are going to be so many Latinos who have come of age who are eligible to vote that even in traditionally low voter registration percentages and low voter turnout numbers, it's enough to change Arizona from a red conservative state to a blue progressive state, because there's just going to be so many Latinos who are eligible to vote. So even if they vote in low numbers and their voting behavior goes that way, is that there's going to be change. So what you see today as Arizona is kind of like when you look up and you see a star, you aren't seeing the star, you're seeing kind of what the star was. The present is pretty much the past already. We're seeing a snapshot in time. That's why it's so hard to predict the future. But when you deal just on straight numbers alone, Latinos are going to be a force in the state politically. But there's going to be people that are going to, of course, people in power that are going to resist that as long as and possibly they can. Therefore, you get voter suppression efforts. Which is, when you talk about voter fraud is institutionalized. Voter fraud isn't a conspiracy.
Joseph, let's hold that thought again. We've got to go to break again, but when we come back, let's pick up on that topic again. And how do we change the wave of Hispanics in the future on that? You're listening to 1190 AM, AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We will be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Welcome back. This is Alec Suarez. And again, thank you for joining our show today. We are talking about Hispanic by numbers. And you're listening to 1190 AM. And our radio show is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Monica and Joseph, we were just talking about the importance of power by the numbers of Hispanics. But before we go on that real fast, let me just remind everybody that we have this event coming up on Saturday where we're going to be doing finalizing the mural that local artist David Murrieta is creating on 7th Street. The event will be basically just finalizing the mural. So we're inviting the public for this community painting date, 9:45 a.m., 9:45 to 10 a.m. So please come and join us.
The special guest.
That is right.
You know, we wanted to have a representative of the Governor Raul Castro, and someone from his family is going to be there to represent him. We also are going to be having a representative from Post 41. Congressman Ed Pastor is going to send a representative. They couldn't come. Some of them couldn't come. And then we're going to have a representative of Chapito Chavarria. And these 4 people are going to be or represented on the mural. So the whole idea is to depict, Latino successful people, the contributors to our state. So please join us. It'll be a fun event, a morning. Most likely it's going to be hot, but it's going to be in the morning, and we're going to have a press conference as well, right?
That is correct. The press conference will be at 10:15. So again, we invite the public to come 9:45 a.m. to 12, help us finish the mural. So let's get back into the topic, the important topic of numbers. And Monica, the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce puts together datos, but you can't do it by yourself. And let me introduce real fast Deena. Deena is one of your interns.
Yes.
Can we get closer, Deena, so they can see you as well? Because the chamber can't do it by themselves. You rely on interns from ASU to help you put together all the data, and then you put all those numbers into words that we can understand, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
She's an example of what we're talking about.
She is, and I was just about to say that. We often talk about our youth in the third person, right? And they're right here in the room, and that's true both symbolically and literally today. So Deena DeLeon is president of the Hispanic Business Student Association. She's an honors scholar at ASU. Really just the epitome of what our future is. Latina, strong, educated, and a leader in her own right. So we work with a lot of interns from ASU precisely for that reason, to empower them with these facts and these numbers. I think we're born into a culture that makes us very humble and that makes us, sort of modest about who we are and our contributions to this country. And when we include folks like Deena, and we've got 4 other interns as well, at the Arizona Hispanic Chamber, we empower them to see the impact that they're making at a very early age. So we're excited to have Deena on board, and she's been an amazing contributor. And just, to have her here in the room is really important.
So, Monica, how do we change this? We have the numbers. What do we need to do as Latinos?
We need to invest in ourselves ultimately and be accountable to ourselves. A lot of times, you asked earlier, we've got all of these numbers, but we are less organized than we should be. We need to really own our power, I think, ultimately, and look at these numbers as a foreshadowing of the future. We will drive the economy. We're already driving the economy. From a business standpoint, there are about 4 million Hispanic businesses in the U.S. Here, the 2012 Business Survey released their findings in 2015, and we were able to capture it through some projections. And we saw that here in Arizona, while the rest of all businesses grew about 2%, Latino businesses grew 70%, 70. Wow. And Hispanic women-owned businesses grew 116%.
That's what I wanted to say. Latina power, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think it's a natural forum for Latinas. We're used to, multitasking. We're used to running our homes and our businesses, and we're really stepping up to the plate. One of the things just in general where you're seeing women more empowered, particularly Hispanic women, is that until 1987, this is in our lifetime, women required a man's signature for a business license, which is outrageous to me, right?
1970?
87.
87. That's very recent.
1987.
Wow.
So now Latinos are really kind of owning that power. They're stepping up to the plate, and we've got about 123,000 Latino-owned businesses here in Arizona, more than half of which, about 60%, are Latina-owned businesses. So it's an exciting time for us.
Yeah. We are using the word power here, and isn't democracy a matter also of power? Is numbers? Can we say that? In democracy, who wins?
Majority.
Mm-hmm. So there's power in numbers.
Except with the Electoral College for the presidential race. I just point that
We're
out.
representative democracy.
But it still deals with numbers.
Yeah.
You
In theory.
still need numbers in principle. Yeah. So again, I have to keep coming back to this issue. Yes. I mean, I think all Latinos, they kind of take pride in numbers. I think it's a fact. But we all agree that the degree of power enjoyed by the Latinos based on those numbers, we just cannot say too much, right? You explained, Joseph, the matter of how voting, we just have to be very patient, because you said that 13-year-olds do not vote, right? They have to turn 18.
I think there's both patience and urgency. And I think that the sense of urgency has to be with the Latinos to get registered. It's a 2-part process. Get registered and to vote. It's that 2-part. And I think we've made some good ground on both of those, but not near enough to make the impact that we can today.
Earlier you
I'm
said...
I'm not saying don't wait until everyone's old enough to vote. Let's make a change now.
Earlier you said that 700,000 people registered, but only 450,000 vote. Is that...
right.
Did I write down...
No, you wrote that down correctly, but you got to understand that's 150,000 more Latinos from the 2012 election.
Okay.
So that's a 27% increase. So the numbers are going that direction. We just need to feel the sense of urgency to go even more. But when you talk about powers and number, there's also power in understanding where we need to do better in the numbers, the challenges.
Okay.
And leadership comes in many forms, not just an elected office. You can be a leader in your community. Recently we had the passing of the legendary Pete Garcia, former head of CPLC, and he's done a lot of great things. I mean, so we need new leadership as well. We need to recognize the leadership who have gotten us this far and this, the position we're at, but also look at the numbers where we need to improve on. I mentioned the 44% Latino kids in Arizona K through 12. You look at the teachers, though, only 14% of Arizona's teachers are Latino. 14%. So that means kids in the classroom are looking at the front of the class and not seeing themselves or not seeing a role model. And then sometimes, let's face it, that you need someone who is part of the Latino community, who is engaged in the Latino community, to bring the Latino community more into the classroom, for parent involvement and engagement and so forth. But we don't have that right now with the teachers, obviously. You look at nonprofit boards, you look at business boards, there's not enough Latino representation on those across Arizona, across the nation,
right.
But certainly here in Arizona as well. School boards are important, because that's where a lot of the local decisions are going to be made that impact your kids the most. So it's a matter of, not shooting just for the top prize all the time, but it's understanding leadership comes in many forms and many levels.
And, there are many organizations, Latino organizations, that are, preparing leaders. And I know of LULAC being one of them. LULAC is going to celebrate their annual conference in San Antonio, Texas in July. I know NCLR is coming to town. Do you know, anybody know the dates? Is it in June or July?
I believe it's July.
It's July. So NCLR is coming to town. LULAC is celebrating their annual conference in San Antonio. And guess what? LULAC is coming to Phoenix in 2018. And there are many others. Valle del Sol has Hispanic Leadership Institute. The Aguila program with, who is it?
Rosemary.
Rosemary. Yeah. There's a lot of things going on. It's just a matter of, I suppose, raising the awareness, encouraging one another. There's a kind of an infrastructure there already. It's just a matter of kind of moving into it and taking advantage of it.
And one of the things that I think I have to point out, us as Latinos, we have to unite. We have to be working together, whether we're Mexican, Colombian, Argentinian, whatever we're from or wherever we come from. But we need to be together. We've got to have that leadership. We've got to change those leadership roles. We've got to have leaders in boards and national boards. We've got to have more representation in government. We have to get more people educated. That's the only way that we're going to get together and we're going to come out really winning in this.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, I just wanted to say that you mentioned, Joseph, that we have had just at the state level leader who was Raul H. Castro. And other than that, we haven't had another one. And we'll just remind those folks that have joined this program that we will devote I believe it's June 10, where we're going to devote the whole show to talk about, Raul Castro. So, again, there's just a lot of things going on. I think positively, there's a lot of challenges. Ulises, are we ready for a break? Yep. Okay, we will be right back, and we're going on break. Stay with us.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Welcome back. This is Alec Suarez. You're listening to 1190 AM and also on Facebook, AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. David, I love listening to our jingle, and thank you so much to our local artist and producer, Miguel Alonso, that created this jingle for us. Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you. And can you also, while we were on break, you mentioned parity and revenue. Can you address those issues?
Absolutely. Oftentimes we talk about the contributions of Latinos, but also what are we missing by not investing in the Latino community and not helping businesses scale? As I mentioned earlier, there are about 123 Hispanic businesses here in the state of Arizona. They contribute $9.9 billion into the economy. However, the average Hispanic business makes roughly about $110,000 in annual revenue. Non-minority owned businesses make closer to $400,000. That gap, if we were to increase Hispanic business annual revenue to non-minority annual revenue, you're looking at an additional $36 billion into the economy.
Wow.
So that's what we're missing out on when we don't help these businesses scale. And that's why the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is absolutely committed to helping these businesses scale by providing resources, access to capital and financing, access to contracts, and job creation.
Have you seen an increase of businesses joining the chamber lately?
We have. I mean, there's a constant just trajectory up of increased membership because these businesses are looking for ways to grow their business, to market their business. There are a lot of incubators in town that are really helping Latino businesses as well. Programs like Compass. Edgar Olivo has a group called Compass, and they do a great job of helping businesses and providing resources. So there are a lot of resources.
Monica, if our listeners and viewers are interested in getting a hold of you or the chamber, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. Our website is the best place. Our website, you can also download our Datos publication, and that's www.azhcc.com. Or you can always just call us at 602-279-1800.
Perfect. And Joseph, we're kind of coming to the final stretch here. Any other thoughts that you want to share with our community?
No, I would just say that I'm glad that you're be recognizing Raul Castro. I think a great leader, national leader, international leader. As you know, he's been ambassador for this nation a few times, three different occasions, and a governor. And when I talk about leadership, we know that there's a new leader who has put his name in the ring again for governor. Talking about David Garcia, no relation to me. Just want you to know that. So. I always tease David that we should go on stage together because that way we can say that we are related, fool everyone, and tell everyone that he got the brains and I got the looks. And he laughs at that a little too hard, just like you guys did. But I also want to point out that I think that we need to look in terms in wider scope because even our present governor, Doug Ducey, has recognized Governor Castro at his passing, held a great ceremony there at the old Capitol and the Rotunda, and mentioned him at the very first part of his State address this year when he opened up the session. I mean, so there is recognition, and I think it's important not to pit us versus them when we're talking about Latinos because it is us. We only have one Arizona. You can't talk about Latinos on one hand and Arizona on the other. It's one Arizona, and we are part of Arizona.
I would like to pose this question as in the last few minutes that we have. Monica, to you first. What has numbers do to you? I mean, how does that change you? Because they definitely have changed me. And even my son, I share data with him a lot. And he says, oh, data, wow. Data seems to do something to you in your understanding and your reaction. What has data done to you as a person in your mindset, the way you approach your work, the community, et cetera?
Sure. I think two things. One, we talked about empowering earlier. There's certainly an increase in my confidence when I look at these numbers and think, wow, we're really making a difference. These numbers speak to me, and I want to share them and make them as contagious as possible. And the second thing is just being able to share this with our community, make it a voice for our community. The numbers speak loudly. There isn't much more we need to say. The numbers are in our favor. So for me, it's been very gratifying and very rewarding to be able to interpret these numbers, to share them with our community. We believe in a free marketplace of ideas, so that this is available to anybody who's interested. And people
free
often
of charge.
And free of charge.
Wow.
People often ask us, do I need to be Hispanic to be part of the Hispanic Chamber? And my response is always, as long as you can read the numbers and you know the demographics, it's really in your favor.
Right.
And it's in English, by the way.
Oh, by the way, we do it in English. Yes.
And a lot of times when we watch TV, there seems to be like an image of Latinos, very kind of negative, but numbers, they don't lie. So, Joseph, I mean, you said that your parents did not have the opportunity to go to college. You're a first generation college student. And then you went into the field of research from what we gathered. So how does that change your view, your mind, who you are?
Well, I had a long, storied newspaper career.
Okay.
You see how I played on the words there? That just shows you it was true. So I was in the newspaper. I was a newspaper reporter and editor and columnist for a lot of years, and then I joined ASU, Morrison Institute, and I also teach journalism as well. and the head of the Latino Center, and I'm on several boards, including Arizona Children's Action Alliance. So I try to have an impact on the community, and the numbers mean a lot. I mean, I come from a family of 7 children. Okay. I'm the youngest. I'm the 7th. So they waited until they got it right, but not that different. I mean, so all my brothers,
your siblings, the first of your siblings did not go to college. You were the first.
I was the first, wow. Yes, and
That's
it was kind of for some reason they kept passing it down, just like they did those old Yaquis shoes that they just like. Eventually, you're going to go to college. You're going to go. It finally got to me, and I went to college.
There seems to be a kind of pattern.
Yeah, there is, but I mean, all my siblings have been successful in their own right, in their own ways, and some of them a lot, some a bit more financially than I have, believe me. But it's the idea of believing in yourself. And in our family, we were taught to believe in ourselves, that nobody is better than us, and we are better than nobody else. And I think that's important with Latinos. You talked about the humbleness of Latinos. I think that's there, but there also should be also the quiet confidence that who we are and what we contribute to this nation and to this state and the potential that we have. And we just need to sometimes voice that and show that so other people can understand that we are not a threat. We are actually an attribute, an asset to everyone. To them, we're not in competition with you. We are in a collaboration with you for everyone to succeed.
Joseph, I love what you're saying there, that we're not a threat. We're an asset to the society here in the United States. It seems, Monica and Joseph, that the common denominator here for Hispanics by the numbers is education. And education doesn't start in the classroom. It starts at home. We as parents, families, as a Hispanic community, we have to teach our kids, our children, and set up mindset from a very young age, from the time they're probably in kindergarten. They have to go to college. They're going to be able to succeed, that they have to believe in themselves. What else can we do to change that in education?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. One of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm pursuing my doctorate at USC, and many people have asked, like, why are you doing this at this point in your career? It's not something that's necessarily going to advance your career or do anything. And my response is very simple. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old at home, and I don't want education to just be an opportunity. I want it to be a non-negotiable expectation. This is what we do in our family. And changing that mindset is very different. I was also the first in my family to go to college, and it makes a huge difference. And it does empower you. It gives you that confidence. But more importantly, it sets a legacy for the rest of your family.
Definitely. Well, we're coming to a close, and no doubt. I mean, I'm very excited. I'm very happy that we did this show today. And just please know that I believe in 2 weeks the name of the show will be "The State of Arizona Hispanics Education." We're going to do Hispanic numbers, Hispanic health, and Hispanic education, and then comes the show with a governor. About Governor Castro. So, I want to highlight something very important with our platform. The idea is to offer this platform for Latinos to reach out to Latinos. And all AARP is doing is offering this platform. But the main engagement will take place through Facebook. So we really ask you to help us to like the page and to encourage others to like the page, because if we can get at least, 10,000 people to follow, then can you imagine the impact the message will go out? We need people from Yuma, from Nogales, from Douglas, from Tucson, from all over the place to connect, because this will allow us to reach way more people. And we will be bringing issue experts. We will be bringing or addressing very important issues. We will be bringing young students. This is going to be a platform for the Hispanics to use just to build a community, to strengthen and support the community. So please help us. And we're just about a few seconds.
Yeah, we have a short time. And by the way, I do see that we have a person from Nogales, Elvia Cantor, joined from Nogales. So that's awesome. So we're getting people listening from across the state. So thank you. Parting words, Monica, anything else that you'd like to add, just?
Congratulations to you on this platform. Thank you so much for sharing the numbers with our community.
And Joseph, any parting words?
Just very optimistic. I know there's some challenges, but that's the way we need to look at them, as challenges and not as problems.
We want to thank you both for joining us. Deena, thank you so much for joining, for your leadership. Continue your education, become a leader, be participant, be an activist here, and make our community better. You're listening to 1190 AM, AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. David?
Well, see you next week and take care.
Arizona Hispanic Connection.